So welcome everyone to our 7th Fierce Founders Pitch Competition. Can you believe it? Number 7, woo! I'm Heather Galt. I'm the VP of Startup Programs here at Communitech, and I'm really happy to be hosting here today. I'm so proud to be part of a program that since 2014 has put $600,000 in non-dilutive funding into women-led companies. How amazing is that? Yeah. And by the end of today, it'll be 700 grand. Yeah. I'd like to extend a special welcome to a couple of folks today. First of all, a big thank you to 2 of our local MPPs, Catherine Fife and Laura May Lindo, who've joined us this afternoon for our competition. Right over there. Welcome to you both. Thank you. And also a huge welcome to those who are joining us online, including, I hope, my family. Hi. Awesome. So I wanted to share a little bit with you about the Fierce Founders program. It has 2 different components. First of all, our boot camp, which is what you're a part of today. So our boot camp is meant for early stage companies that are just in the process of finding what we would call their minimum viable product, or MVP. So they come here for 6 days, over a month or so, and they spend those 6 days participating in workshops on topics like sales and marketing, investment, the crazy and boring things like IP and accounting that we all need to know but don't necessarily put time into, and also things like self-care. So we make sure that all of our founders, by the time they leave the program, they have all the information they need to succeed as an early stage company. They also have, by the time they leave the program, an amazing network of other strong women that are going through that process with them. And that, to me, is one of the most important things that they take away. Our other part to Fierce Founders is our accelerator program. The accelerator program takes place over 6 months. The founders move into our building for that period of time, and they have access to a combination of workshops, mentoring and coaching, and non-dilutive funding, thanks to our government supporters. Over that time, most of those companies will go from very early stage revenue to a significant step forward in their revenue growth with new customers, new hires, and we hope that most of them will be able to attract investment within 6 months of leaving the program. Fierce Founders Bootcamp and Accelerator, as I mentioned before, have been running since 2014, and applications are actually open now for the next round of our Accelerator program. So if you are interested, please check online, and if you know any amazing women who could benefit from the Accelerator, please get them to apply. Applications will close next week. I'm really proud of the 21 women that we had in our current boot camp. They've come to us from as far away as Newfoundland, and where is she? There she is. And a lot of the companies have come from the corridor as well. And so it's been really fun to work with them. They have such a wide variety of companies and backgrounds and experiences, and every single one of them have grown immensely over the last month. It's really inspiring to be able to be part of that program. I'd like all of those Fierce Founders who've been in the boot camp to stand up for a sec so we can congratulate you. Well done. The Fierce Founders Bootcamp and today's event wouldn't be possible without a huge amount of work from a number of amazing people, including a number of people inside Communitech. And I want to thank a few folks in particular. Our Startups Programs team, which is Michelle Engelhart, Kelly McGregor, Vladimir, and James. Can you guys please stand up for a thank you? I'd also like to extend a huge thank you to our marketing team and our events team who are busy at work behind the scenes. You can see our events team in the blue jackets, and the marketing team you can see by the glow on the screens from the cameras or the computers that they're running behind right now. But this would not be possible without them, so a huge thank you to them all. Programs like this also don't happen without financial support. So I'd like to recognize our sponsors. We have Deloitte, BDC, TD, Google, Thomson Reuters, and our governments, both provincially and at the federal level. So a huge thank you to all of them for their support of this program. And now it's my distinct pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker today. Martha Van Berkel is an alumni of both our boot camp and our accelerator, which just makes me so proud. She's also one of the members of our newest cohort of REV. And for the first time, Communitech's REV program has 50% women-led companies in the program. Yeah. So Martha is the CEO and co-founder of Schema App. And I'm going to have to read my notes, so forgive me for a minute. Schema App is software that translates brands to being understood by machines like search engines, voice search, augmented reality, and more. Martha spends her days with digital marketers, teaching them about this advanced SEO strategy and how they can do it at scale without IT and without developers, which is pretty crazy. Before Schema App, Martha was a senior manager at Cisco Systems for 14 years, responsible for the global online support strategy. Martha has a degree in applied mathematics and engineering, attended MIT for innovation and strategy. She's from Vancouver, and she's mom to 2 awesome kids. When she isn't working, which by the way isn't very often, she loves to be outside with her family, eat gluten-free desserts, and enjoy tasty coffee. Welcome, Martha.
Good afternoon. So I'm Martha, and I'm the CEO at Schema App, and I'm absolutely delighted to be here today to both celebrate our female founders and also share a little bit about my journey about being a fierce founder. You see, just 18 months ago, I was sitting where you were sitting, and I had butterflies in my stomach because I had never pitched before. It was my first pitch ever. And so I'm really excited, and it's really weird to be on this side, and I look forward to cheering you on, but sharing a little bit about my journey that maybe can be some extra tips that you learn along the way. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. You got a bit of a summary from Heather. So I am an engineer by background. I wear the iron ring. And when I graduated from Queen's Engineering in 2000, I moved to the Silicon Valley. And it's been really interesting because I moved there when tech was hot, but I wasn't entering it in the mentality of a startup person. So people talk about the Valley now with this amazing awe, and I'm like, oh, it was just kind of a place I worked when I was 19 or 20. So it's been really interesting to see that evolution and also see how it changed. And during my tenure at Cisco, I was there for 14 years. I started as a technical support engineer supporting voice over IP when it was very, very new, and then went all the way to being a senior manager responsible for strategy. But through that journey, I never applied for a job. I was always creating opportunities, whether that be directed by customers who were having problems that I wanted to find solutions to, or whether that was creating whole organizations. And one of the key areas that sticks out to me was when I was just 23 years old, and I'd saved a VP's ass when the government had made a phone call. And so he's like, hey, Martha, do you want to run my 3 to 5 year strategy planning for how we should automate services? I'm 24, right? I have no idea what I'm talking about. And I'm like, sure. And so lo and behold, I worked with 2 senior directors, developed what Cisco would then invest over $20 million in to automate our services strategy. And what I didn't realize then was that I was pitching to get funding. I was having to influence stakeholders to not only believe in the ideas that we came up with, but in the concepts and the people that I wanted them to hire. And then they trusted me to build a 250-person organization. They were crazy. But somehow, whether it be through my overconfidence or just saying what I think, I was able to take us on that journey, get that investment, build that organization. And each and every day, I just focused on asking for help, being willing to take feedback and advice, and focus on the things that I do well, which is setting the vision for where I think this thing is going and why we're investing in this, helping my team execute and remove barriers, and then finally, on making sure that the stakeholders understand where we're at in the journey and where we're going. not so different from what I do now. I think what was interesting, though, is back then I didn't know what I didn't know. And that's sort of different from where I am in my stage of life now. But somehow I found that confidence, and I just sort of, again, focused on each and every day trying to move the ball forward. But while at Cisco, I also had the amazing opportunity of building some product management teams. And product management is one of these things that we don't often talk about till later stage in a startup reality, but is so instrumental. And what it really captures is the idea of how do you make sure that you understand all aspects of the product you're building, not just the exciting tech, but also why you're building it for your customers. And so I really learned the importance of talking to customers and involving customers very early on in the design stages of the product. Because there's nothing like being sent to Berlin, walking in with a brand new product to a channel partner in this case, having it absolutely not function, and then have to sit there, try to fix it while wearing like your suit and heelers in like a sweaty building that doesn't have air conditioning, only to understand the true realities of what your customer's dealing with. So I really encourage for the people who run businesses here, or even if you're an enterprise, involve your customers, talk to them, go live in their shoes for a day. You'll learn way more about the opportunity you have and what you can do for them. And when they're involved, they often really like buying from you too. So I finished my 14 years at Cisco as a senior manager. I was at that point then, I was a troublemaker, like opening up all of Cisco's services content to be available via APIs, and I partnered with AT&T to help me make that disruption. And then I left to have a baby. And so I left in 2013, and I had my daughter, Ruth. And being a mom's amazing. So I have 2 kids. Ruth's 5, and she started senior kindergarten. Don't worry, the first couple days have been going well. And then my son, Garrick, who's 3, who looks identical to me. And having kids while you start a business, while founding the company with my husband, is the craziest thing I've ever done in my entire life. Kids keep you grounded. They force me to be the most productive person between 9 to 5, but also remind me about the important things in life, why we're doing this, right? It's about, being able to see them laugh. Or this summer, I had potty training and riding a bike with 2 wheels all in 1 week. Right? Like, I don't remember if I closed a deal that week, but I totally remember that week and the fact I threw out my change table. It was like the best thing ever. Now, about our company, it'd be an amazing story if I said like, great, when we started the company, we landed totally on this idea and amazing, like that's what happened with it. But you know what? Businesses don't happen that way. Mark, my husband, actually founded the company in 2012 as he was like noodling with semantic technology. And I joined to try to hunt for a problem to solve or customers that wanted to buy it. And so this comes to my next advice I got from Bob Illiman from Innovation Guelph when we were sort of had a product, but we weren't really making any money. And he's like, Martha, go sell something. Go sell anything. And so I remember cold calling for the first time with my daughter, like 4 months old, and finding this architect who was willing to give me $30 to an audit of his online presence, and I thought I'd won the lottery. $30, right? But what it taught me was, 1, how to cold call, how to get them to pay me for anything, how to close a deal, follow up, and execute. And so I would encourage, the Fierce founders who are here today, go sell something, right? Like, even if it's just like a really, really, really small part of your MVP, go get someone to pay you for it. And then this was actually the start of our journey. So we were doing online presence for small and medium-sized businesses. The product turned into a service, and everyone just wanted us to do the work for them. And so we found ourselves as digital marketing agency and not a product company, which was not why we had left our jobs. And so we do this meeting now every 3 months called Are You Having Fun? Or Energy Wabam, where we ask ourselves, are we having fun? And are we getting energy from our interactions with people, our interactions with customers, and also the work that we're doing day to day? And I really encourage everyone to take time to do this. We actually based it on Dan Sullivan, who founded Strategic Coach in Toronto, on some of his principles that if you're doing something that's fascinating and motivating, you'll want to keep doing it all of your life. And so if you can do that and reflect on that and have your team do that, everyone just loves coming to work. It's an amazing thing. And so we had this moment in September 2015, where we were like, man, we didn't quit our jobs to become a digital marketing agency. The problem is that while we were doing this work for SMBs, we'd also built this tool called Schema app to help us be more profitable as we were doing our work. And in 2014, when we had it out first, we were ahead of Google by a year. But in August 2015, Google started supporting the way that we were doing this. So I'll never forget, my son was 4 months old. We were like debating whether I was gonna go try to work it at a conference for franchises, and we basically decided that we were gonna pivot, absolutely niche focus on this very, very specific part of search engine optimization, and we rewrote our website that night. And in 10 months, we launched Schema app. Now, you may be asking, like, what is Schema app and what is schema markup? And Heather, you did a great job. Good job in explaining that. So it's most easily explained. So everyone does Google searches, and when you do a Google search and you look in the organic search results and you see stars or price information, images, yes, you guys have seen that stuff. That stuff is powered by code on the website that gives Google confidence about the content on it, that it then rewards the business with that sort of rich feature. Well, that code is called schema markup. And businesses that adopt schema markup get higher click-through rates, more organic traffic, better quality, better leads, and then are also understood by voice assistants as well, or any other machine. So think of like the emergence of IoT, like when is our car gonna need to also understand the context of the business we're going to then help us prepare for things, et cetera. And so Schema app is a software as a service that helps digital marketers adopt this super techy, really complicated search engine optimization without having to get in the weeds. They don't have to write code. They don't have to deal with a developer. And our recent solution that we brought out allows you to do thousands of pages in about 10 minutes. Oh yeah, the other thing we do is once you do that, we then leverage it to enhance chatbots, on-site search, and also other business intelligence. So we're sort of different, and most SEO people go in with a tactic. We're saying this is a strategy for your business and your marketing. So over that last year, so 2016 to 2017, we went from a services company to a software company. And in 2017, we had a crazy year. So we joined Fierce Founders Bootcamp, got in the top 8, pitched, lost. The next week, we won Innovation Guelph's Startup of the Year for actually doing that transition to a software business. Then joined the Fierce Founders Accelerator. And during this time, we also hired our first employee, our second employee, and then in January 2018, we launched our enterprise application. And so 2018 has been even crazier. We're now 7 employees. We have a beautiful office in downtown Guelph. We've 6 times our revenue in 8 months. And we are now about just starting the cohort of Rev, which I'm so excited to be one of the first 2 of us Fierce Founders Accelerator grads to be part of it, and also 50% of us being female-led. We've also all done this being bootstrapped, and I'm really proud of that. So the journey has been long and hard, with great days and really crummy days that we probably shouldn't talk about on public. But it's also been made possible by our family, our friends, our hard work, and our community. And so as I reflect on the journey, I'm just gonna have 3 quick points. The first is that we often talk about founders as startups as just being founders of companies and startups. But as I reflect on my journey, I've been a founder a lot of times over. I was a founder at Cisco, an entrepreneur. I founded a running program with St. Albans Boys and Girls Club through my time with Junior League of Toronto. I started the Queen's Young Engineering Alumni in Toronto. I've always been a founder. It just happened that I didn't use my own money all those other times, but I was doing it for other purposes, other things that I wanted to create. And so founders are everywhere. And I think if we can broaden that look of like where people have that passion and drive to be founders, there's actually a way broader and bigger community than we actually term normally within the startup and entrepreneurial world. And so let's connect our drive and our passion and our perseverance and use all of those skills that we have across the community to make the world a better place. And I'll just give you an example. So my mom, Faith Garriock, who was hoping to be here but couldn't be here today, I'll show her the online version when we're done. She's a founder, but she's never called herself that. She started one of the world's largest creative problem-solving programs for kids called Destination Imagination, and she's always just called herself a volunteer. And really, I just think it's like amazing when I reflect on that. I'm like, oh man, I maybe don't fall too far from the tree. About being fierce. Arlene Dickinson recently posted something on LinkedIn, and I'll read it. She said, "After 30 years as a female in business, I know one thing. If you let gender stop you, it will." Now, my father has always said that I'm an outspoken young lady, and he wouldn't change anything about me. And I've also never believed that there's a glass ceiling, that if I put my mind to something, and I don't know where I get that, I just it's part of who I am. But be courageous. Don't let anything get in your way, and know that you are capable. Frankly, I still can't believe that I've grown our business on so little sleep, with no funding, while raising 2 relatively behaved children. And being fierce also means being resourceful. It means about also knowing what you're not good at and hiring people to fill those gaps, being courageous to ask for help, and most of all, just continue each and every day, one day at a time, one win a day, and carry on. Which leads me to my final point. The group of us here today represent an amazing group of the community at Communitech, in Kitchener-Waterloo, and the Corridor. And while programming, tasty coffee, and free desks are amazing, it's actually the people here, the people in this community, that are actually going to change our lives, that are going to connect us to the introduction. Actually, I was just talking to someone today who was like, "Oh, could you make an introduction to RBC for me?" He's like, "Yes, let's do that, let's make that." But they're gonna make the connections to the customers, they're gonna help you on those crummy days, just lift you up. There's a Fierce Founders peer-to-peer, and we get together every 6 weeks, and it is my founder therapy. But you have to invest in connecting. And so I would encourage everyone here, don't leave until you meet 3 new people. Don't hang out with the people you know because you know them. Go and see whose founder spirit you can leverage and help do what they're gonna do, because as a community, that's how we rise up. That's how we grow. And it's only if we all invest in each other and seek each other out that that happens. So thank you to the community, to Heather and the Communitech team. I am honored to be part of your roster of companies that have gone through your programs. And I look forward to making introductions for others in the room that I can help prosper and grow. So be fierce, embrace the community, ask for help, and then make your dream a reality. Thank you. Oh, one last thing. We're hiring. I'd be not doing my job if I did. I knew I was going to forget. I need to put a note here. So we are hiring salespeople and developers. So if you want to work in Guelph, we have people coming all over. Coolest building in downtown Guelph. Come see me afterwards. Thank you.
How awesome was that? Seriously. Thank you so much, Martha. That was amazing. So before we get to hear from our 8 finalists, I'd like to introduce our judges who are sitting right here beside me. First of all, we have Aaron Bast. Aaron, if you could stand up or wave or do something, make a face, everyone sees. Aaron is joining us from Mars IAF. Next, we have Zara Javon, who is here from Deloitte. We have Kimberly Young from BDC Capital. And last but not least, we have Graham Toppin, who's here from Ross Intelligence. So thank you to all 4 of you. We're looking forward to some hard questions. Hopefully we've prepped our founders well. So now that we know who's going to be making our judging decision, I'd like to introduce you one at a time to the founders who are going to be competing. So each of our founders will have 5 minutes to pitch, and then 5 minutes to answer questions from our judges. And you'll know those 10 minutes are up when I'm standing here making an evil eye at the judges to not ask any more questions. So my job will be to keep all of you on time. I'll also ask that you hold your applause until each pitch is finished, because otherwise the afternoon will get really long, really fast. So let's get the ball rolling. Our first company is Polygon, and I'd like to introduce Lauren Smith. Lauren?
I'm here to save you from the new lead in our drinking supply. It's a type of microfiber, plastic, called the microfiber. These tiny plastic threads are released during the washing of synthetic textiles, like polyester or fleece, and end up in our waterways. Here, they collect harmful toxins linked to serious health concerns, like diabetes and cancer. They're ingested by the wildlife and increase in concentration up the food chain, and we are at the top of that food chain. But it gets worse. Scientific studies have shown that 83% of the world's tap water contains microfibers, as well as many other food and beverage, and 93% of all bottled water. These unavoidable fibers are turning up in new sources every day. The industry's most responsible laundry and apparel brands are scrambling for a solution. In fact, several have already reached out to us for help. They know that consumers are demanding a solution to the plastic crisis and are choosing environmental brands, even paying more for their products. These industries need to find a solution or they face losing out on these markets. What's more, governments around the world are regulating microfiber emissions through taxes and labeling on synthetic materials, and we know that regulations for appliances are coming through the pipeline. These industries have no alternatives and have told us they need a solution before these regulations spread. So we create a proprietary biomimetic filtration material to capture these fibers before they enter waterways and before they enter our diets. And we're first starting where we can have the biggest impact, the washing machine. We're currently capturing 95% of all microfibers released from the washing machine. Our filters are ideally installed at the manufacturer and are easy to clean, like the lint screen on your dryer. We also have an easy-to-use laundry add-in, like a reusable dryer sheet for the washing machine. Our filter materials need replacement over time, allowing for sustainable recurring revenue. Even better, we can reuse the plastics we capture in our 3D printed components, lowering manufacturing costs and increasing our profit margins. Few competitors exist, and those that do are difficult to use, have low capture rates, or release microfibers themselves. Over 300 customer interviews show a preference for a product like ours, and we outperform even the next best attempt with 560% higher capture rate of microfibers. Several industries are already interested in working together on a product, and we have interest from clean tech investors. We will license our patented technology to these industries to create a product tailored to their needs. We benefit from their existing markets and can profit through royalties or co-branding options. We allow these industries to be the first to respond to demanding markets, provide a unique value-added feature to their product line, and get them ahead of coming legislation. But we are also looking beyond the washing machine and can expand to other markets, such as water treatment, beverage processing, or aquaculture, keeping plastic already in our waters out of our diets. No one else has even touched that space, and we can provide those industries a unique market advantage. We're following a B2B2C market plan, first partnering with an industry to pilot trial our MVP. Since we don't rely on chemicals or expensive engineering, we can set high profit margins, ensuring profitability even with resale. So far, we've proven our science with concept prototypes and are filing for patents. The 100,000 will allow us to complete our beta prototypes and prepare for pilot trials next year. This will lead to our first initial revenue, before we expand to other markets with external investment and internationally. The global washing machine market is $33 billion and expected to grow. The revenue from just one North American manufacturer was $4.3 billion last year. If we run our technology in just one of their new eco washing units, based on 2017 sales, we can see $40 million in revenue. And this is before including refills, other markets, or aftermarket options. My partner and I are both trained in interdisciplinary water management. I have a background in social marketing and behavior change, and Nicole is an engineer with research in flow-through porous media. She's worked with some of nature's best filters. We're supported by renowned accelerators, several multinationals with expressions of interest, a wide network of environmental groups, and respected research institutes. We've raised $60,000 in funding so far, running lean with accelerator support. The $100,000 will fund our R&D, full patent costs, and talent acquisition, allowing us to unlocking revenue-generating pilot projects. So, in summary, we're creating the most effective solution, capturing 6 times more microfibers. We're creating a product that end users want and that solves industry's problem of demanding eco-conscious consumers. It's only a matter of time before microfiber emissions are regulated, and we are already positioned with a cost-effective, powerful solution. Hardware can be hard, but we have the business plan and proven technology to bring a profitable product to market. So help us save everyone from eating their dirty laundry. Thank you.
Hello?
Hi.
Is this on? Yeah, perfect. Love the idea, fantastic.
Thank you.
Quick question. What do you do with the filtered plastics when they're done? So how are they disposed?
Sure, so we're hoping to reuse them in our 3D printed components. We're trying to incorporate a return program, so having collection bins either at point of sale or a mail-in program, so then we can melt them down essentially and reuse them in our in our 3D printed components. And as an alternate method, we could also get them to an appropriate recycler. Municipal recycling doesn't recycle the plastic fibers, so we can provide them to TerraCycle or another company that can recycle them.
Awesome. Can you tell us a little bit more about the regulatory environment? You alluded to that coming down the road. What do you expect and when do you expect it?
Sure. So far in the UK and in some states, they're introducing the taxes and labeling on synthetic materials. And we've been talking to governments across North America, and they see that similar to the EnerGuide rating system on washing machines and some appliances that rate water conservation and energy use, they are looking to get something like that going for microfibers. Canada's committed with a plastics charter to do something about the plastic crisis, and a few other the other countries are looking at that as well. So they don't have anything in detail labeled out yet, but they've told us that they're coming.
Really cool stuff. Have you had conversations with like the washing machine manufacturers, and sort of what is their feedback on kind of installing? How much are they willing to pay? Like, how do you price it? You said that you can have a relatively high margin. I'm just thinking how you think about that.
Sure. So the manufacturers, they know that this is an issue. The washing machine manufacturers don't see it as their problem to solve, like they don't see it as their fault, essentially, but they know that there's a benefit in doing something. It's a unique thing they can add to their product line that others aren't doing yet. So they want to do something, and the manufacturers we've been talking with haven't been working with other filter companies. They've been looking to find maybe an apparel company that's trying to do something different on that end. So we're kind of the only ones they're talking to there, and we know that the materials we're using, we're working off a plant-based material, and we're using 3D printing, so it's quite cheap for us to produce these. And then, so it'll depend on which industry and how many units they sell, what the pricing for licensing would be then.
Sorry, one last question. So you've done the prototypes. Do you have an idea how you would do the large-scale manufacturing, like to produce it at scale? Or is that part of what you'd figure out with your funding?
Sure, yeah, that's a good question. It'll depend really who we end up partnering with and what their current manufacturing systems are. So we'd work with them essentially to make something that works with their system, make it easier for them to fit it into their machines. Ideally, it's part of their whole manufacturing process, but that's different for every company. So it'll really depend on who we're working with.
You mentioned the apparel companies and their involvement in your strategy. Can you elaborate on that a little bit further?
Sure. So these fibers are from synthetic materials, so polyester, fleece, nylon, and a lot of outdoor brands, for example, that's a lot of their line, but they also really value the environment. So like Patagonia and MEC, releasing all these microfibers really goes against their branding. So they're really very motivated to find a solution and are already funding projects and talking with us, and what Patagonia carries, one other product. So they see the value, but also industries that are athletic brands, for example, also heavily rely on polyester, and they see that their consumers and their customers are demanding a solution. So they know that there's a benefit for them doing something about this. And CSR is becoming more and more important to today's buyers, and so they see that they need to do something about this.
One more. When you say nobody else is kind of doing exactly what you're doing, who are your biggest competitors? Like, and what are they doing, and how much further along are they or not?
Sure. So there's not a ton of competition out there. There is a filter option, and we've tested the competitors that are on the market in our lab, and have also talked with other universities who are testing them, and have all found that they're quite low capture rates. They're using a different method as well. We're working with recreating some of nature's best filters, essentially, and our approach is showing much higher capture rates than the rest of them, and we're still able to do it quite cheaply because we're working with both a plant-based material and then our own recreation of that.
Thank you, Lauren. Awesome. Our next founder is Alwar Pillai from Fable Techlabs. Alwar?
Hi, everyone. My name is Alvar, and I'm the CEO of Fable Techlabs. We help companies test their digital products with people with disabilities so they can ensure that it's accessible. We are currently doing a fundraising round, and we've secured $100,000, and we're looking for another $100,000 to close the round. I want everyone to meet Sam. Sam's our community manager, and he's been blind since birth. Sam loves technology. He plays online multiplayer games, he manages Reddit groups, and he's always exploring new technologies. But simple tasks like ordering a pizza online or checking his bank balance is not possible. And that's not because Sam doesn't have the right tools, it's because companies don't know how to build websites for Sam. One of our customers, Jobsology, they're a vendor to American universities. They lost customers because students with disabilities could not use their product. Governments have recognized this, so they've started introducing penalties. If companies have an inaccessible website by 2021, they can face up to $100,000 a day in fines. Customers are already showing their frustration. In the first half of 2018, there were over 4,000 lawsuits. Fable is here to help all of these companies. We help companies connect with real people who live with a disability, like Sam. Through our platform, companies are able to test their products with our community. And our community uses different types of assistive technologies on different devices and on different browsers. So this is exactly what Jobsology needed. Jobsology used our platform for the first 6 weeks, ran over 100 user tests, and got a ton of feedback from our community. This helped them fix all of their accessibility issues. Now they use our platform to sustain and maintain all of their accessibility efforts. And this process works because real people find real issues. Our community of testers are qualified, they know how their assistive technology works, and they're constantly updating it. So this way, companies are also able to stay updated on accessibility. This market is huge. The important thing to remember is that companies are spending millions and millions of dollars only to fix a fraction of the issue. We've identified 4 core sectors that need accessibility right now because of the band-aids and also because of the customer markets they serve. Our competitors are all automated tool providers. So what that does is it just looks at the code and it's only able to capture 30% of issues. So there's a huge untapped market that Fable aims to capture. The way we'll be doing this is by building partnerships and establishing credibility. We're really excited that the federal government is on board, and also Elections Canada wants to use our platform. Partnerships with companies like D2L will help us scale because they have over 100 vendors that require to be accessible. Our core team is qualified for this. Sam, our community manager who lives with a disability. Abid has over 10 years of experience in startup. Our advisors are experts in accessibility, AI, and business development. And for me, I was the accessibility manager at Rogers before starting Fable. So I manage Rogers, Fido, and Chatter's digital accessibility. We are aiming to be cash flow positive by Q2 of 2019. And for this, we require 21 customers. And this is not an unrealistic goal. The way we're doing this is by first helping customers with services like compliance report and audits, because accessibility is new and we need to educate our customers, and then we convert them to our SaaS product where they get to maintain their accessibility. We've been doing amazing since we started. We launched our company in April of this year. Our beta went live in June, and in July we had sales. And Q4 of 2018 is also looking pretty damn good. So we're here to keep this momentum going, and for that we require $100,000. And this is going to go into customizing our product according to the verticals we've identified, increasing our marketing and sales efforts, and also growing our community. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time. Thank you.
Hi, that was great. I think this is amazing. I'm just trying to understand what the actual platform is, or is it actually people that are going and doing the testing?
So we have a platform where companies can create user tickets, and that gets sent to our community of testers. So you can test journeys out. So you can, if you're in TD, you can be like, how is our Interact e-transfer flow? And that'll be a ticket, and that'll go to our community of testers, who all will use their different assistive tech and give feedback on it, and we generate a report. So companies know exactly where are the pain points, what components, and what they need to do to fix it.
So, okay, so I just a follow-up question. So then, are your community of testers full-time testers that are employed by you, or is it
Yeah.
is the concept is actually the platform?
Okay, sorry, I had a slide, but I don't think I have access to it. So our community of testers, all of them, they're not full-time. They all work from home. We make sure that we provide a flexible working opportunity for our community testers because they all live with a disability and they need a comfortable environment to work, which is their home, and they also have their assistive tech setup at home, which works for them. So we have base set of users who dedicate certain hours, so 4 hours every week, and then we have a flex set of users who probably have jobs and just want to have extra income, who will log on whenever they're available.
So your customer would then pay for a SaaS license fee and then in addition pay for usage of your tester's time? Is that how the business model would work?
Yeah, so the business model works as it is a SaaS product, so you get credits monthly that they pay for, and you can use those credits for two things. One is to do the user testing through the tickets, or you can have one-on-one consultation, which happens through our platform. Because our testers are experts in their assistive tech, companies can learn how to fix the problem through our community. So you can book those one-on-one sessions through our platform as well.
Okay, so follow up to that then, what's your typical gross margin? How much would you generate from a customer in net profit from your product after paying your user group?
Yeah, so I can't answer that question completely because we are pretty new, and the way we've been getting our customers through a combination of our services and SaaS. So we do a package on projects right now, so where we help them with audits and reports, and then they sign up for like 3 months to 6 months to use our platform to maintain their accessibility. So it's a mix of both those. Yeah.
No problem with that. I have a question. Just going back to the community, how do you scale the community? It seems like the real value is through the community. And really interested to hear what your plans are there, if you have an answer to that yet.
So yeah, so right now we have 15 testers, and 5 testers are our base, and then the remaining are our flex. We don't need to grow our community much to support a lot of companies, because our testers take about 1 hour to do 2 tickets. And we are already in conversations with organizations, NGOs that focus on different types of disabilities. So when we do require to scale, we already have those partnerships that we're developing, which will help us grow the community. So one of them is Knowability, which is in the US, and they have a community of over 2,000 people with a disability. And then AEBC in Canada, which also has a big community.
And how do you guarantee that the quality of the community's work is up to snuff?
So we have a process for that. So when someone joins our community, they join as a flex tester. We have a couple of tests that we do with them to identify what kind of accessibility issues they're identifying. Is it accurate? And then if they want to have more work, they move on to our base users. The important thing to note is that our base users right now are experts. So they're not only experts in the accessibility, but they also know development. So they're able to tell developers directly what issues they need to fix. So we kind of take them through that journey. So if you're a novice user, we train you on web accessibility, so you're able to move into our base as well.
And last question, the development that you need for with the 100K, are you intending to automate the user reports? Like, tell us a little bit more about what you...
Yeah, so right now the reports are automated, like our users give feedback and the reports get generated automatically. The reason we need the 100K is we want to start providing specific features according to the verticals we've identified. So education will have certain task flows that they would require to check frequently. Sign up is something that's common across all platforms. So we're trying to come up with these user task flows for each of the industries, so we're able to help our customers more.
Awesome. Thanks, Avar.
Thank you.
And next up, we have Sharon Reeds from Intuitive Shipping. Sharon?
Meet Gavin. Gavin loves fashion. Like many, Gavin followed his passion with purpose and embarked on an entrepreneurial journey, opening online using the Shopify platform.
In its first week, Rockaway & Co. made over $3,000. Gavin was ecstatic until he went to ship. Gavin drastically undercharged for shipping, reducing total profit to $76.84. The problem for merchants like Gavin is that traditional e-commerce platforms offer standard shipping calculation options which do not reflect the complexity of the shipping needs. This causes a disconnect between what the customer is charged for shipping at checkout and what the merchant is charged for shipping when they go to fulfill. Result? Lost time, money, and customers for hundreds of thousands of merchants. Shipping costs are not intuitive. So we made our platform, Intuitive Shipping, easy to use. Saving valuable time and money, we have taken the complexities out of shipping calculations. When products have predictable profit margins, success becomes predictable too. We understood the problem. We had the power to solve it, so we did. Responding to intensive market research, we developed proprietary software, putting the control of shipping calculations where they belong, in the merchant's hands. By 2024, e-commerce sales are projected to outperform those of traditional retail stores. As the e-commerce industry continues its rapid expansion, controlling costs is critical to remain viable. Intuitive Shipping is and will be their solution. We chose Shopify as our go-to-market platform. As the single fastest growing e-commerce platform in the world with over 600,000 users, they were a natural choice. With 30+ glowing 5-star reviews, recognized featured app, and shipping expert on Shopify's blog, we have positioned ourselves as an industry influencer. Our Chief Technology Officer is the mastermind behind our software. With Joel's drive and innate ability to simplify complex problems, he's in the perfect position to solve the shipping needs for hundreds of thousands of merchants. And as Joel leads the technical side of the company, with my human resources and retail management experience, I naturally lead the human component of Intuitive Shipping. As volume increases, recruitment of dedicated customer support representatives will continue our current level of 5-star service excellence. In 10 months, we've organically attracted over 350 users, acquiring monthly recurring revenue approaching $4,000 US. In 6 months, we anticipate organic growth to 1,000 users. And in 2 years, we'll be entering other e-commerce platforms. And entering these new markets will increase our accessible market by hundreds of thousands of merchants. Targeted ads on Facebook and Google, along with continued participation and support in the Shopify community, will solidify our position as a trusted leader. To improve market share, we're moving from our current flat monthly charge of $30 US to a tiered pricing model ranging from $15 to $100 US a month. Our lower entry point will increase accessibility to new and emerging merchants. As we and our clients expand, tying pricing to merchants' order volume makes sense. Based on current trajectory, next year we anticipate gross annual revenue to be over $250,000 US. An investment influx of $100,000 will allow us to increase investment in market momentum, including targeted ads on Facebook and Google, hosting our own Shopify meetups to get people excited about shipping. It'll also go towards a dedicated customer support rep so we can continue our service excellence. This investment influx is poised to propel us to over $600,000 US next year, solving a key business problem for hundreds of thousands of merchants. With your vote of confidence, Intuitive Shipping will quickly become the industry standard for shipping calculation software across the globe. To merchants like Gavin, other software only offer partial solutions. At Intuitive Shipping, we check all the boxes. And if Gavin, our original merchant, was using Intuitive Shipping in our full suite of features, his total profit would have been $1,276. That's a huge, huge increase. Intuitive Shipping, e-commerce shipping, solved.
Maybe you can talk a bit about like the business model. So it's the actual merchants that are buying like a subscription to the software.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about
Yes,
that.
it's a great question. So we're in the Shopify App Store right now. So Shopify, when they go on there, they have the basic standard things to run their store, and they'll go to the App Store and they'll download our app. And our app, they'll input their products, dimensions, and stuff, and we do the calculation at time of checkout. And currently, they pay us $30 a month US, so it's a monthly subscription. And then we are moving to $15 to $100 US, just so we can get those earlier level merchants, because shipping's business critical, and we've noticed that there are a lot of merchants, they're starting out, they need this kind of functionality, but $30 is a bit too much for them to start out with.
And I guess just a follow-up question, what's the impact to the buyer? So is there like a max shipping, or is it like depending on what the merchant's shipping, you could have like escalating shipping costs? Like how does that?
So the impact to the buyer, so there's two ways. So one is if the merchant is undercharging for shipping. The customer is like, that sounds great. They paid $17, I paid $3 to ship. Great for me. But the merchant will go to business. So the buyer's losing one of their favorite merchants. And it can also end up on the other end of the spectrum where if the merchant is charging too little for, or too much for shipping, the customer still pays, but how many customers aren't actually checking out because the shipping cost is just too high?
So then the app kind of takes like that into account to come up with like a balanced shipping cost?
So it's up to the merchant to figure out their exact shipping needs. So we are the calculator, we're the tool. So depending on where they're located geographically, because we do operate around the world, so there's different couriers, different methods. So somebody who's selling jewelry will have a completely different setup than someone selling furniture. So it's up to the merchant to decide their shipping strategy, and we can help them with that, and they input it into our calculator, so at checkout, it's always precise calculations.
Okay, so you guys aren't actually doing the shipping itself. You merely provide the calculation
Yes.
prior to it going to the LSP.
Yes.
This is I come up with a solution. I go, okay, how much is this going to cost?
Yes,
Okay.
because right now, so the customer pays for shipping at checkout,
Right.
and the merchant goes to fulfill, and that's when they pay for the shipping cost because they're shipping the order, and that's where this huge disconnect is happening.
In terms of your revenue and cash flow, what is it that, in more detail, what do you need from the 100K? Like, what are you intending to spend it on?
So we're intending to spend it on targeted ads on Facebook and Google, and we're hoping to use some of the money to actually hire an agency to help us with that, so it's not just money just thrown out there hoping that it sticks. Also, hosting Shopify meetups is a great way to get our name out there. Shopify will recognize us that we're putting the effort into hosting these, making merchants more excited about the Shopify platform, and we can also get people excited about shipping, and they can recognize that it's a competitive advantage that they can have. And also, as we do increase merchants, we want to continue our service excellence because that's what really sets us apart, and that's what people look for in the App Store. So having a dedicated customer service representative will help with this influx. And while we're a bit slower, we can focus on our core strengths as well.
Just going back to the, just going back to the software, the product itself.
Yes.
So when you say it's your proprietary software, what are your inputs in there? Are you just like, if I put in like a table, for example, that I'm selling, then you figure out the dimensions, you know where I'm shipping from, and then you're using some assumption on what kind, like how I will ship it, or just trying to understand like how you come up with this pricing?
Yes, so it's up to the merchant to input the dimensions for their products because our software is smart, but it's not smart enough to go and use a measuring tape. So so if you're selling a table, you input the dimensions of it packed. You select your courier if you're using FedEx, UPS, USPS, Canada Post. You can select your courier who you're going to ship with, and at the time of checkout, if the customer orders this table, our app will actually calculate the appropriate shipping rate from your courier. So the customers charge the accurate rate. When you go to fulfill and ship this table, it's a matching rate. Does that explain it properly? Okay, awesome.
Can you elaborate on how big this market opportunity is in dollars? Is this a $1 billion opportunity? Is this a $100 million opportunity? What is this? What are you chasing here?
We're chasing millions right now. When I was trying to find statistics, the problem was that every person had completely varying, where they're like, oh, there's this many merchants. There's around 112 million online stores, but how many of those make more than $20 a month? So where we're at right now, it's a bit difficult to pinpoint the exact huge dollar value, but there are hundreds of thousands of merchants, and e-commerce is growing every single day. So, and no one's going to be happy with buying a blazer online and getting a screenshot, so shipping will always have to happen. So the calculation portion will always be there.
Can I just ask one final question before she comes on the stage?
She's coming.
Does your app only work with Shopify, or can it work with other kind of online front-end stores?
So we're currently with Shopify, just due to their user growth. They're based in Canada. They have an office like around the corner. But our software is able to be easily moved over to different platforms. We're just waiting till we have more of a name and more structure and people to be able to handle way more users. Thank you.
Get out the camera.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sharon. I think the judges are getting confident. They're not even letting me give them the evil eye anymore. Next, I'd like to introduce Elise Sherdell from Helm. Elise?
Hi, I'm Elise. I'm a computer engineer with a PhD from a machine learning lab at the University of Toronto. I'm also a mom, and I'm the founder of Helm. If you have kids, you know how much work goes into making family life run smoothly. There are a ton of tiny tasks that need to be done. Someone, maybe you, or maybe someone you love, is carrying this mental load. So I teamed up with a serial entrepreneur, a social media guru, community outreach specialist, a data analyst, and a software engineer to launch the first vertical on the Helm platform, babysitting. Our premier solution connects parents to pre-interviewed babysitters, helping them find great care when they're in a bind and letting them book and pay through the app. Babysitting is such an acute pain point, and we solve this problem so well that much of our growth is organic through referrals. We've booked over 40,000 hours of childcare since we launched, and we grew our top-line revenue to $225,000 last year, which we're on track to double in 2018, validating not only the concept, but our ability to execute. Not only are we finding flexible part-time work for great babysitters, university and college students, early childhood educators, but we're building a product that parents love, and we're helping families. Babysitting is the first vertical on the Helm platform. All summer long, we've been helping parents find available spots at summer camps, making a whole new level of hyper-local deep search possible, and letting parents ask questions like, what camps have spots the week of July 16th? We're doing the same thing for kids' activities, letting parents say, where can we do ballet on Tuesdays? By the end of the year, Helm will be the app that parents open every day to run family life. Not only will it help parents know what they have to do and when, it will actually help them to do it. How big is this market? It is big. Moms control $2.4 trillion in spending. Babysitting and kids' activities are each $5 billion markets. We see a massive hole in technology for families, famtech, that is so big that famtech isn't even a word. Current family management solutions are siloed. It means many apps on your phone, each with a registration and an app learning curve. We see things differently with solutions to common parenting problems all in one place. Sure, that's great, you might say, but how do you grow? You know what's interesting about what we're building? We're building something that parents search for. Facebook posts all over North America right now are filled with parents saying, where can we do hockey? Does anybody know a good judo studio? Parents talk a lot. They share information with their soccer parent friends or the school friends, neighbors, or the other parents at the bus stop. We're going to use that virality. It's built right into the app. We're going to piggyback on that network effect to bring more parents onto our platform. Our business model is multi-pronged through our monthly recurring membership fees, our 15% on the babysitting transaction, and our transaction fees on activity and camp bookings, we value a user at about $240 a year. At 50,000 users, which we could do in Toronto, that's conservatively $10 million in fee revenue in Toronto alone. As we refine the product and write the playbook to roll out across 3 more metropolitan centers in the next 18 months. Why us? We're a team of technical mothers. This is rare, and we acutely understand this problem. We can iterate quickly. We're currently raising $500,000. We have a product, we have revenue, we have repeat customers, and we have organic referrals. We need to put some effort and some money into growing this thing. We need to spend $30,000 on an AdWord expert and some AdWord spend, because 20,000 people a month in Toronto are looking for exactly what we do. We've recently put some time into our email and push notification strategy, which produced 2 times engagement for such a small effort. We need to spend $10,000 more on scaling this up. And finally, we need a VP of biz dev and partnerships, because we need a major partner. We need to find a longtime player in the parent market who has market share, but not a strong tech angle, so we can create a symbiotic relationship. And if anybody knows who this partner is, I'd love to talk to you. My name is Elise Sherdell, and we are building Helm, which is the future of technology for families.
Great pitch. First question would be, why not just focus on growing the babysitting side of the business really, really big, really fast, and educating the market on that and using your dollars for that? Why add the other pieces at this stage in the game?
There's a couple of reasons. I think this whole in FamTech is really big, and I'd like to get on as soon as possible. Second, I think the babysitting model doesn't totally make economic sense. It's not enough. And when you look at the numbers and you project it, we need other revenue streams. And so I think it's important to grow from one to many. And as people age out of babysitting, then they age into these other verticals. And the other thing is, not everybody's ready to meet a babysitter through an app, right? That's not for everybody yet. And right before we launched the next verticals, if you weren't ready for that, we had nothing for you. But now we do. We can tell you where to go apple picking. We can tell you where you could find ballet, so you start to trust us. And then when you're ready to find a childcare provider, then we can help you.
Thanks for that. I think I need the babysitting app for myself.
I can hook you up.
I'm just trying to understand the availability of data from whoever you're partnering with. So just being a mom and having to search all those websites, what's the strategy to get that information into the app?
How are we doing it right now? We're putting it in manually, right? So we built systems, so we're putting it in manually. I built the system to put it in quickly but manually. And then as we refresh, that problem becomes smaller. And then we start to say, hey, update your classes for this season. But right now, it's a bootstrap, scrappy solution, yeah.
So the updates, the long-term goal is the updates are done by?
Sure, and I mean, whether or not we build their back-end framework, because they're not technical people and they're not marketers, like maybe we do build a Ballet Studios website down the road, but for now, we're not doing it yet.
Okay, and then who's the actual, what's the cost per month for a parent?
For a parent?
That's I'm assuming that's to the consumer.
Yeah, right now there's 2 tiers, $7.99 a month or $13.99 a month, depending on if you want to link your partner's account.
Just on that question, are you also getting transactional revenue as well?
Yeah, we take 15% off the babysitting transaction.
Okay, so the numbers that you showed, like 200 and something.
That is the top line revenue, and our margin on that is about 30%.
Okay, thanks.
So as you think about rolling out to new cities, those markets in the next 18 months,
right?
Some of these things are like hyper local, right? Like camps and stuff. How do you get that information? Because like you said, once you have them on, they can update, they can refresh, you can get municipalities to do that stuff, but the upfront kind of work that needs to go into rolling out in a new city, how do you guys optimize and scale efficiently?
We're about local experts because markets are different. And because, when you're dealing with childcare and other things, people in the region understand that. So we're going to build a distributed model that really utilizes local experts. We're not command center to the world. We're lots of small centers.
Is there interest from any of the camp locations or that ballet company to take a part of the paying of the subscription cost?
Part of the subscription cost?
Yeah, so paying part of the cost. So if you're being able to push out their information in their schedules, is that something that's...
Right. I mean, it's coming. We're just figuring out that part, these new features, like what do parents actually want, what companies actually want. But yes.
So, 2 quick questions. You mentioned your LTV at $238 a year. How much did you pay for each of the customers?
How much
What
I
was
pay for
your
each customer?
Yeah,
I put it at about $42 a customer, but I don't know if that scales if we dump $100,000 in the top of the funnel, because we haven't tried it yet.
It's probably less important to figure that out now, and more important to just know how you're going to scale it. The next question, which was touched on, is, especially when it comes to parents, do you guys have a strategy for security, privacy, validation, all of those things?
We do. All of our babysitters are interviewed twice by us and by parents. And in the end, as a parent, I want to pick the babysitter who's looking after my kids, and so that's how our process is set up. So it's like a 2-sided approval process.
So do I get like a babysitter Tinder, swipe left, swipe right?
We thought about that, but because of that, we don't even show babysitter pictures, actually.
So is the focus the babysitter piece of it in the next 6 to 12 months, or are you adding these other components?
So it's all in now. We've been doing babysitting only for a couple years, and babysitting is still growing, and we're adding new verticals as we go. Cool.
I'm going to get a cane. I swear. I'm going to get
I didn't know you were here.
Thanks, Elise. And next up, we have Catherine Vandenberg from Zabu. Catherine?
Let me tell you a story. There's a company in Mississauga with about 1,000 customers and nearly lost it all because of an email. I'm Catherine, and I'm the CEO of Zabu. So this employee was just doing their job, checking their email, and clicked innocently on a phishing link. And that caused all this company's data to be held for ransom. They were down for 4 days, so they paid the ransom, got a little data back, paid again, got a little more data back. When this happens to British healthcare, you hear about it. And when Air Canada's mobile app gets hacked, you hear about it. But there are millions of small and medium businesses worldwide who know and relate to this story from Mississauga. 61% of small and medium businesses experienced some kind of cyber attack last year, costing them, on average, just over $1 million. Small and medium businesses are falling through the cracks in this war for data. This is the dark side of the information age, and we are shining a light on it. Zabu is a cybersecurity software solution. We help IT-starved small and medium businesses understand, in plain language, what they need to do and when they need to do it to keep their data safe. If you don't already have a cybersecurity budget, we will help you set it. And if you do, we'll help you manage it. And for this, you don't need to pay for an expensive expert. We're automating it. With our solution, you'll have up-to-the-second visibility, regular reporting and emergency notifications, and you'll be able to see your system reports on demand. New threats crop up every day, and that is why our system runs continuously. It never stops. By 2022, global annual cybersecurity spend will reach $232 billion. So that's a huge market. We can't get it all at once. So we're going here first. There's currently $4 billion waiting to be spent in the small and medium enterprise market in Canada alone. And this is where we launch. We've raised $160,000 in government funding and in founder funding. We're looking to raise another $300,000 to protect our IP, build out our channel partnership plan, build out our digital and business infrastructure, and implement our sales and marketing plans. We'll be releasing our version 1 in Canada in January of 2019, and we're looking at a global release in 2022. We'll deliver our software to businesses through the people they already trust, their IT service providers. We're already in talks with several that are really excited to sell our software to their client base. We'll be marketing to end users across social channels to educate and drive up demand. We're looking for industry partnerships with companies that serve our target market. And this plan will allow us to expand across Canada into the US and then into Pacific Asia. So there's a lot of stuff happening in cybersecurity right now. I'm sure you've all heard about it. But actually, our major competitors are still manual consulting services. So while there are automated things available on the market, they're either geared towards large enterprise or towards a highly technical audience. Companies like eCenter and Arctic Wolf are not actually our competitors. If their solution fits the business needs, we're more than happy to make that recommendation as part of our ongoing plan. So in my former career, I managed a multi-million-dollar company, much like the one that we talked about at the beginning. We had 3 locations, over 30 employees, and we outsourced our IT. I know that this cybersecurity problem needs an affordable solution. And so I teamed up with these experienced professionals. My CTO and co-founder, Derek Wong, has more than 20 years of experience in systems and networks. We have a cybersecurity subject matter expert on staff, and we have a chartered psychologist because cybercrime relies heavily on social engineering. We have an applied research partnership with Conestoga College that gives us 3 full-time co-op students for a year. We have 2 developers and an informatics expert, and we're also one of the anchor companies in the cybersecurity zone at the new Grand Innovations building. We're Accelerator Center clients and recipients of Jumpstart. We have access to world-class mentorship and a wide business network. That company from Mississauga, they never got all their records back, and you wouldn't have heard about it, except now you have to, because Digital Privacy Act is coming in, and you could be liable for up to $100,000 per record, not per breach, if you fail to notify correctly. Thank you very much.
So, what is the solution?
It's an automated preventive solution. So what we're doing is we're looking for system and network vulnerabilities in your specific business network, regardless of whether it's on-site or in the cloud. And then we're going to propose a timed-out plan for you so that you can actually address your security without having an audit.
And it has been developed?
So the underlying software has been developed. We are scheduled to be completed in a couple of weeks, actually. We've got a couple of industry partnerships that are allowing us to develop our product.
And just further on that, so how does it work? Does it try and infiltrate an attack? How does
Yeah,
this...
so it's going to scan your internal network, your external network, and your website, and then it's going to run it through a pretty sophisticated set of analytics and present you the data in language that you can understand so that you know exactly how the things that you've put in place are affecting your security. And then you can plan out, first of all, we'll suggest the cost-effective measures, the most cost-effective measures that you can implement, like what's your patch management strategy, or is your firewall configured correctly, or these kind of things. And then we can go up and address the more big-ticket items, depending on what vulnerabilities we find internally and externally.
And how do you price it?
It's a SaaS model, because we do work continuously. The entire landscape changes daily. So, yeah.
Like by size of organization?
Yeah, it would be the number of
users?
devices in your network, because that affects the effort that's required to go into a scan.
Thanks.
Maybe talk a bit more about the solution. So in terms of like the detection, so is it something that you have to actually install at a company's, install it, or is it something that like the software sits in the cloud and it kind of
So there would be an install on your network either by virtual machine or a piece of hardware, depending. Right now it's just an install software, and our partner would install it for you. So the end user wouldn't need to actually be involved with that. But then what ends up happening is the information gets sent through our analytics engine, and then we'll present it back to you.
And then what about updates to the software? So if there's new things that are happening all the time from a cyber security perspective, are those updates to the software then, like how does that?
You don't need to download it. It's all done in our analytics engine, right? So we're importing everything in the cloud and running it all through in there.
How are you going to gain credibility and trust, especially in the early days as you're going to market with the product?
We already have several relationships with IT service providers that are interested in our product. So we want to go to market through them. We want to make sure that the end users are using people that they trust. Typically, outsourced IT providers don't have a security expert on staff. And so this will allow them to address their end users' security in a way that they weren't able to before. So once we talked about the social campaign to drive up demand and help end users understand that they probably are suffering from security gaps. And even if they don't believe that they are, it's a good idea to take a look at it and engage their IT service providers.
I know it's a SaaS model, but for folks who just like kind of want to try it out or whatever, so maybe they sign up for like a month or whatever, and then they start. How do you make it sticky? Like, how do you keep it in there when they're like, oh, these are the 5 things I have to do. I've done it. I'll stop now, and maybe in like 18 months I'll do it again for like a little bit.
Yeah, no, I'm really glad that you asked that, actually. I didn't have time for it. So the way that we're doing this is, yeah, you can try it out if you want, but our real value proposition is allowing you to see the improvements that you make in your network over time. So these are the resource investments that you've made. This is the improvement. This is how you stack up against your industry. And really, this is how vulnerable you are.
Okay, so just to make sure we're getting it, the idea sounds really good, but to make sure you haven't finished the product yet.
The product will be finished in a week and a half.
Okay.
So yes.
All right. And that then would guide the user testing and figuring out how you actually validate it.
Yeah, well, we've actually built it in conjunction with 2 companies. So we have been user testing all the way through.
Awesome, thanks, Catherine. Next up, our next company is Basil, and our next founder is Arjumand Atik. Arjumand?
Hi, I'm Arjumand, founder and CEO of Basil, which is an intelligent health platform that bridges the gap between powerful functionality and busy practitioners. My slides are changing here. Okay, I can certainly give it without the slides. It would be a lot nicer with them. Sorry? Without the slides? Okay. So hi, I'm Arjumand, founder and CEO of Basil, which is an intelligent health platform that bridges the gap between powerful functionality and busy practitioners. Healthcare practitioners like chiropractors and physiotherapists help us with everything from back pains to migraines. But these highly trained practitioners are spending half their day working as clerks. They're looking up information, filling forms, writing notes, and they're doing all this using a confusing mix of paper and 1980s software that does nothing to make them more productive. That lack of productivity is keeping them late at the clinic, costing them 20% in revenue. And because they're buried under all this paperwork, they're not actually able to support their patients with specific actions. So 9 out of 10 patients are walking out of their clinics confused, unable to manage their own health. But Basil is changing this by giving these practitioners the simplest way to turn their knowledge into powerful action. Basil is an intelligent health platform that recognizes their instructions using voice. it instantly understands how those instructions are relevant. So here, it's automatically picked up the 2 best times of the day for this particular patient. And then it responds with specific action. So it's created the right exercise plan, sent it to the patient, and documented the practitioner's decision all at the same time. And it handles all their other paperwork in exactly the same way. And this takes their productivity and quality of care to an entirely new level that wasn't even possible before. Because their best option right now is loosely stitched solutions from multiple apps, like Jane and PhysiTrack. They force them to fill complex forms in an already complex environment, and collectively cost them $110 every month. Now compare that to Basil, which is a single solution that can do their paperwork faster than paper. It's an artificial intelligence delivered through the cloud at a monthly subscription of just $50. And this is an offer we've created by speaking to almost 100 practitioners all across Canada. Now, a lot of our health practitioners or family physicians already use an electronic system to manage our health records. And research proves that these systems actually degrade their productivity and quality of care. But it is going to take time to replace an established system. So right now, we're focusing on non-physician clinics that are still based in paper. This is where 40% of all healthcare practitioners work, and 60% of those practitioners are still using paper to manage our health records. Our strategy is to start with clinics that focus on physical health, like chiropractors and physiotherapists, then add naturopaths and dietitians, and then everyone who deals with mental health, like psychologists and social workers. This way, we can incrementally build Basil and get it ready to scale into family physicians and even hospitals. This is also a landscape our team understands really well. We know how to build large-scale technology platforms, how healthcare clinics are managed, and how to align ourselves with health policy in order to gain momentum. We're focusing on selling to clinics where practitioners work in groups of at least 15. And a lot of our marketing spend is on building partnerships with organizations like the Canadian Chiropractic Association. This industry is built on trust. And so the associations can have a massive influence on driving sales. With this marketing strategy, our cost for acquiring each clinic is just $150, and our monthly revenue from that clinic is $750. This makes us cash flow positive in 2 years, and in 3 years, drives our monthly revenue to $3 million. So we've already started on this path by building and validating the prototype that I showed to you. We signed up 12 practitioners for a trial and initiated partnership talks with a large health network in Toronto. They've all seen our prototype, and they're very excited about this. Now, we need to turn that prototype into a minimum viable product so we can begin the trials. For this, we're raising $300,000 from competitions like these. The $100,000 from Fierce Founders not only funds a third of this goal, it also helps us get access to a large pool of government funds that were created specifically to solve this problem. And it is a hard problem to solve. At a time when our practitioners are already overworked, they're being asked to deliver better care faster at lower cost. But Basil solves this problem by transforming a complex, expensive product into a simple, affordable one. It bridges that gap between the extremely busy practitioner and the powerful functionality that will drive our healthcare into the future. Thank you. Thank you.
So how do you, that trust that you mentioned that is critical in all these sort of interactions.
Sorry, the what?
The trust
Yes,
that's
yes.
inherent in all these interactions that you mentioned. For a patient, if they're putting in, do this exercise, or if you're a mental health practitioner, like this, these are notes from our session or whatever, what's the security or the patient, the privacy that is kind of ensures that it's like kind of secure, all the information? Because I think that's one of the biggest issues too with like EMRs and EHRs like generally, right? And that's why it hasn't really caught on to the effect that they really have, even though they've been around for tens.
The reason, okay, so there's two different industries, right? So there's the non-physician and the physician industry. So there's a lot of medical records out there. In the non-physician industry, there is no established competitor. And the reason for that is actually very simple, because in that particular industry, time is equal to money, and quality of care is equal to the amount of revenue you make. And our competitors are getting it wrong on both these fronts, right? So that's kind of why it's been hard. This industry is regulated, but in the non-physician industry, the electronic medical records are actually, there's not a lot of regulations at all. There are consents and stuff that you need to manage, but there's not a lot of other things. So there are consents that you already sign when you go into a clinic, and that sort of regulates that. There's cloud platforms that we are using that give us security, compliance, privacy out of the box already. At the physician level, there's federal regulations and there's variations of that. At the provincial level, and the US has its own. But it's things like, where data is stored, who gets access to what. So there are regulations around that, and we're looking into that. We're making sure that the technology that we can use out of the box does support a lot of that. We're also working with the privacy agency to make sure that we're following that and we're ready to have those when we are actually ready to scale into the market.
Can you talk a little bit about the process? So I know it's voice activated. So is there a device that this a practitioner is carrying around in terms of just speaking into a device, or maybe you can just walk through that flow of how that works?
Yeah. So maybe it would help if I give an example of how some of them are kind of hacking their way through this right now. So the very busy ones are actually carrying a recorder around, and they're already mandated to take notes about everything that they're doing, and so they're recording into it, and they're giving it away to a dedicated administrator to say, you transcribe it, you figure out what my prescription was, go figure it out, do all of that stuff. Of course, that costs money, time, and all of that. So now they're using a device that does all of that kind of out of the box. It is, they can use any voice-activated device. They can use their phone, but it would probably be better if they use it on a tablet. Some of them could have it mounted, but that's one of the key things here, right? Because portability of device is extremely important. But voice is what I'm selling as the big thing. But it's actually technically natural language based, right? So instead of clicking around buttons and blah, 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 and menus and all that, you're driving the entire interface using natural language, which could be typing. And sometimes it's not appropriate to use voice, right? But it's possible to do that.
So what's yours? What's your product, I guess? If that's what they're doing currently.
What's our product?
Yeah, is it, I guess to Zara's point, is it on my phone, or how do I interact with it? Yes,
it's a cloud-based application,
okay,
which you can access using your phone, or you can access it using your tablet. If you want to use voice, you would use a voice-activated device. If you're using your desktop, which may not be voice-enabled, it may or may not, but you could also use typing to get exactly the same functionality.
So just to follow up on that, so you're still potentially having to type stuff. Is the power in the solution the exercise plans that it sends out?
So when you say, so the way it's being done today is there's data you have to capture, and right now it's being captured by menus and buttons that you have to hunt through, right? And so the way they work today, let's say if you're doing it on paper, right? You have all this knowledge already in your head, you kind of know instantly what it is that you want, and you put it down. Whereas when you go to a system, like an electronic system that's currently available, you have to think about what the interface is exposing to you, go find that functionality, and then do it. Big difference in terms of cognitive time, in terms of what it takes. Ours is not, don't think of it as typing, think of it as natural language. You think of what it is that you need to do, type it out. Just like Google, big difference if you have to hunt through Yahoo's website or whatever to find out what you want, and a difference between Google and just say, this is what I want, right? And it could give you options, could give you recommendations, but it's driving the entire interface using natural language.
Awesome. Right. Thank you. Thanks, Arjun. Our next speaker is from Statement, and her name is Janessa Olsen. Janessa.
Uber, the world's largest taxi company, owns no vehicles. Facebook, the world's largest media creator, owns no content. And Airbnb, the world's largest accommodation provider, owns no real estate. Something is happening. Hi, my name is Janessa, and I'm here to introduce you to Statement, the future world's largest fashion company that owns no garments. It all started when I was looking into my packed closet, frustrated that I once again had nothing to wear. My friends were constantly borrowing my clothes, and I was starting to get worried about the financial, environmental, and social impact of my closet. So I started doing some digging and realized that I wasn't alone. The average person actually only wears 20% of their wardrobe on a regular basis, amounting to only 7 wears per item before an average garment is discarded. And that's how Statement was born. Statement is a marketplace where renters can lend clothes to one another and meet up to do these transactions. They can gain access to awesome clothes around them, can earn money on clothes that are just sitting in their closets, and it's a form of conscious consumption. So we started to do some digging into the market to see if this was actually a real thing. And we discovered that the online clothing rental market is actually valued at almost $2 billion, and that the peer-to-peer clothing rental market is valued at over $700 million. This is an industry that we can grow into. So we decided to start small and focus on women between the ages of 20 and 24 that were attending university. There are over 150,000 of these women in Toronto, Kitchener-Waterloo, and London alone, and over 10,000 of them at Western University. Over the last few weeks, we conducted some interviews with this group and discovered that over 60% of this demographic impulse shopped and went out and dressed up on a weekly basis. That is our target. These people are close in proximity to one another, are on a budget, and are highly social. Before we dove in too deep, we wanted to make sure that we validated our idea. So we hosted this statement, #BayBrave, for 200 strangers from our target demographic in March. We wanted to test our hypothesis that strangers would rent clothes from strangers. So we lent these girls all of our friends' clothes. We did interviewing at the event and found out that 92% were willing to lend their clothes. 97% were somewhat to extremely willing to borrow clothes, and 91% would travel and go out of their way to meet up with a stranger to exchange clothes. So, how do we take this to market? Our rollout strategy is a 3-stage, 3-month process. First, we start off with our Girl Boss Club, which is our brand ambassador program, and we launch our product to them. Then we launch to them and their users in a soft launch and do iterations with them. Next, we launch publicly. This will help us with our scalability when we're moving forward, will allow us to acquire critical mass before we publicly launch in a new city, and will allow us to geo-test certain locations. We believe that our team is the foundation for our future success. My co-founder, Madison, attended school in Australia studying leadership and management. She is the founder and president of a nonprofit organization, and she's studying marketing currently at Western. I am a former 7-time national track and field champion and just completed my master's in international business management at Ivy Business School. We're also supported by a group of amazing advisors. Larry Lau is the CEO of 88 Ventures, a software development company. Diana House is the co-founder and owner of Tiny Devotions Jewelry and Eternal. These are both e-commerce platforms. And Colleen Aguilar is the communications director for Brush University. These are just a few of the people that are helping to guide Statement. This forecast is based off a commission and administrative fee that is charged at each transaction. With that $6,000 that we're targeting right out of the gate, we anticipate over $160,000 of annual recurring revenue at Western University alone, and that's just one school. By expanding to more schools and going into 3 cities, we will be profitable and have over 15,000 users within 20 months. We're also exploring another revenue stream where we're opening up boutique storefronts for local businesses to rent their clothes out. Currently, we have three boutiques signed up in London right now. In the last 8 months, we've gone a long ways and gotten a lot of traction. We're working with great organizations like Propel, Communitech, and are in the Y Combinator Startup School. We've also developed the first round of our app and are beta testing currently. We're asking for $100,000 to further our development, launch our Girl Boss Club, launch our promotion program, and grow our team. So are you ready to be a part of the next biggest change about to hit the fashion industry? Thank you.
So I think a lot of this also has to do with when you see something like if what I see is what I'm going to get, right? And that's, I think, a lot of the hesitation people have, especially with clothing. It's like, is it going to fit right? How, in sort of your beta, are you thinking about validating and like the impact of reviews and feedback and making sure that you have the right people on the platform that are lending or renting out their stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a user case. It's a gift that I can't access, but basically when an item goes up, they list photos of it, et cetera, and then we verify the photos to make sure that an item is in good condition, it's not, all destroyed or gross or whatever. And then they list a whole bunch of filters. So they list the size, they list the brand, they list style, all of these things about the item to basically qualify whether it's going to fit into what we're looking for. We're looking for statement pieces, essentially. Does that answer your question? Okay.
So you showed the market size.
Yes.
Is it a growing segment? Do you have any understanding of the adoption here, and is this compounding?
Yeah. So actually the peer-to-peer rental clothing online industry, there we go, is growing year over year at 8.5% in North America right now. So right now it's valued at a $700 million industry, but 8.5% year over year, it's absolutely growing. I think a lot of that has to do with the familiarity that people are beginning to have with renting and the fact that lots of people can't own things, can't really afford to own things anymore.
And so how does it work on pricing? So if what's my experience if I go onto the app and I'm looking for a cocktail dress for Saturday night? Do I put in what I'm looking for and then things pop up? How does that interface work?
So it would be similar to logging into, let's say, your Instagram page. So you log into the Statement app, you specify the filters of what you're looking for, including the date that you're looking for it, and you specify your area that you're in. So if you're in Kitchener-Waterloo and you don't own a vehicle, so you only want to discover items that are within a 5-kilometer radius, you set that so that it's convenient for you. And then everything that fits into those filters will come up like an Instagram discovery page. You can shop those items. So say you find something in my closet that you like. You can click on the item and you will see the ratings for that specific item. So was it stretched? Did it smell weird? Things like that. Did it fit well? There'll be a star rating as well as reviews that are listed on every item. And if you say, great, this looks good, you can then go to my profile and view my ratings. So the item and the lender are rated separately. So if the item is awesome, but I'm not on time and I'm terrible to deal with, you can make the decision of whether you want to borrow from me or not. And the person that borrows is also rated at the end of each transaction.
What's the incentive to lend?
The incentive to lend for most people would be to make some money. I think that that's going to be the driving thing that gets people onto that. We're also doing a loyalty program. We are considering gamifying and then decided that that wasn't what our target demographic was interested in. They're more interested in stars like a Starbucks card than they are into winning badges or something like that. So going through these loyalty points, you're able to get better perks. We're also an experiential brand. So we have events like our Bay Brave or specialized private events, and by being a loyalty member, you get access to these other things.
So part of the power and where it can get powerful is if I put it in an area and there are enough people around me. If there are 5 people around me and they have mediocre closets, it's not so interested. So how do you make sure that if I'm in Kitchener-Waterloo and I'm and there's not just 2 people with 3 things that they're willing to lend out, right?
Yeah.
That really limits. And then it's just not a great experience.
Oh yeah, terrible. It's like when Netflix first started and nobody liked it because it only had weird shows on it. So our Girl Boss program, the way that it works is it's a 6-week program. There are 2 weeks where we just work with our girl bosses. So right now we have 24 of them in London, Ontario, and they have to list X amount of items and transact X amount of times and complete a report every week to stay in the program. And then what they are responsible for is recruiting 10 to 15 girls that fit into our target demographic, and then they're paid a commission for all the items that they list, for the transactions that these girls do, et cetera. So when we do launch publicly, so you're going onto the Statement app as someone that wasn't in this private launch, there are already gonna be between 250 and 400 users on there, all of which have reviews, all of which have items listed, to just really verify that this is a thing that's moving forward. Also, I know I'm getting kicked off, we have a program it's called Secret Shoppers, that basically, these are just friends of ours that have fantastic style, and when they're out shopping, if they find things that are like amazing items, regardless of size, etc., they'll buy them, put them on, and we give them a better cut.
One quick question.
Yes.
What I got in there first. What happens if my favorite dress gets ruined?
Yes, great question. So we offer insurance on all of our items. So for $5 insurance, you buy up to $50 of normal wear and tear. So we're building strategic partnerships right now with tailoring companies and dry cleaners so that they can fix these items if there's a stain or a seam pulls out. But if there's anything that's broken beyond repair, it's charged to the credit card of the person who borrows the item. So they can buy units of insurance if they're like, I really can't afford to replace this $4,000 bag. They can buy more, but basically, if you're being negligent or if you steal, you're going to get charged, and that's going to go back to the person that lent the dress out in the first place.
Thanks, Janessa.
Thank you.
And our final speaker today is Susanna Vukovic from Intelibed. Susanna?
Now, I want you all to imagine this. You wake up, you're really not feeling like yourself, and you decide to go to the hospital. You're triaged upon arrival, and then you're in for a long, anxious wait. Before you know it, you're left in critical condition, and you suffer both a concussion and internal bleeding. This is a story of a close friend of mine, and I'm really glad to say that Intelibed Solutions has the solution. A smart hospital band that collects vital data and transmits it to a live analytical software. With the software, the triage nurse will be alerted upon mishap within the waiting area. Upon arrival to a hospital, you are met by a nurse, which then registers you and triages you based on 5 different categories. The categories are ranging from 1 to 5. In categories 1 and 2, you are typically taken to a trolley bed within the first 15 minutes in Canada, on average. And in categories 3, 4, and 5, you are most often left to wait in the waiting area. Now, currently, the technology is as it stands on the left side of the screen. The bands are at 32 cents a unit, and Intelibed is looking to integrate a band at $80 a band. Now, that is quite a steep price to track and record these patients and their data. However, if we take a look at the costs of malpractice in Canadian hospitals alone, they average out to $172,000 per case. And in 2017 alone, that worked out to be 70,000 cases. We are in development of both our thin film sensor bands as well as our Cortex software. And we have conducted 65 face-to-face interviews with both healthcare professionals and those that have been recently admitted to emergency room departments. And with that, we've received 3 letters of intent from 3 hospitals. Intelibed Solution provides a healthcare solution for these healthcare professionals in order to countermeasure healthcare staff inattention within the waiting areas. And when we really look at the wide range of patients that are coming into these waiting areas, they go from categories 1 to 5, as previously mentioned. And that is really our total addressable market. However, we are only dealing with 86% of that market because these are the individuals in categories 3, 4, and 5 that are left to wait in the waiting area. When we look at hospital intervention, they're broken down from non-major intervention to major intervention. And hospitals do everything in their power to ensure that their medical cases do not progress from non-major to major due to the cost difference. Now, on average, there's been 8 million patients triaged into categories 3, 4, and 5 in Canada alone. That leaves us with a $90.3 billion market size. Now back to the 3 letters of intent. If we were to only use these 3 letters of intent and approach all 3 of them and start testing in all of them, at the current number of patients in each of those emergency departments, and given our $80 band, we are looking at a first-year revenue of $343,000. And in order to get there, we need to complete beta testing and pilot testing. And the only difference between the 2 testing periods is really in the cost. With our pilot testing, we plan to do a 30-day full trial period for the client, and at the end, they will be served an invoice. Both of them are provided with full medical analytics and data on their patients and their waiting area. Now, if we go back to the third letter of intent that we received, it was from Airdrie Urgent Care Clinic in Calgary. And if we're doing it at a cost of $80 per band, multiplied by 60 patients in their area in their waiting rooms, and we integrate our $5,000 software at a recurring revenue every month, we're looking at roughly $10,000 a month in revenue. And really, we're looking to raise $120,000, $100,000 of which will go towards hiring a full-stack developer, and $20,000 of which will go towards the research and development of our piezoelectric thin film sensor bands. This is my team. My name is Susanna Vukovic. I'm a serial entrepreneur, an electrical engineering student, and a former medical receptionist. My team consists of a biomedical engineer and researcher who has thorough experience in developing medical technologies, as well as a UI/UX designer that has thorough experience in developing these front-end bases for the medical devices. Intelibed Solutions is analytical, relieves patients, and aims to lower malpractice costs. Thanks so much for your time.
How does the band work?
Okay, so essentially how the band is meant to work is it's going to be collecting data. So the data is going to range from pulse, SpO2, how much you perspire, for example. Those are 3 key metrics. And we'll be moving towards measuring blood pressure on the band itself. But if you were a patient checking into a hospital that is now considered a smart emergency room with our band, then what would occur is the nurse would check you in, and as normal, the receptionist and the nurses, they print out a band. And the band would actually have an integrated circuit. So in today's market, you can actually print circuits. That's actually a new technology that exists. So that's what we would integrate into the patient journey that currently exists.
Just to follow up on the bands, are they reusable or it's like a one-time use?
Yeah, they're disposable, and that's why the steep, I'm assuming you're aiming at the steep pricing, correct? So the steep pricing, the only reason it's really justified is because this thin film sensor technology that we're creating has really only existed for a year and a half. And so it is very novel. This is very new. And so as time goes on and as we further develop our product, this cost will only go down, right? But at the cost right now, after speaking to healthcare professionals, what they're looking at is really that return of investment, that savings that they can get, from not having an individual pass out, for example, in an emergency waiting area, and then they now have to deal with all the repercussions in the back end.
Are there any other competitors that are doing similar?
Really glad you asked that question. Actually, there aren't. And really, the only competitors we have are individuals that are taking wearables, for example, the Fitbit, and they're using it for anxiety, for depression, to really track mental health. Outside of that, there has been no direct applications to the waiting areas themselves.
Sorry, just one more question from me. The cost for the developer, is it the software to develop? Is it like integration with what hospitals are using? What's the use of the developer?
Yeah. So currently I have a developer, and that is my big brother, my hero, right? Supporting his little sister, as they should, guys. As they should. But it's very difficult. He runs his own company as well. It's very difficult to have somebody full-time working on this. And what the developer will be really working on is, I have the software currently. I'm using just Fitbit bands. Right now, it's tracking me as well. It's keeping moving averages. It's tracking if there's any huge spike. And that's really how the band works. And I need somebody to be able to integrate the hardware that I'm helping to create really into the software. So new chipsets, really newer medical technologies. And essentially the dashboard, which was seen on the second, the alerting dashboard. That's what they'd be working on, the front and back end.
What do you think a sale looks like? How many hoops do you have to jump through, and how long is it going to take? And what types of credentials do you need to bring to the table?
Sure. So I've been talking to Health Canada kind of about how a trial would work. If I went with the letter of intent, as I previously said, let's say Calgary, for example, what I would need to do is get an investigational testing authority document. And essentially what the government does is they give you a label. And they label each one of your devices, even if they're just hospital bands, whatever it is, because you're using patients and patient data, right? And it's sensitive. And so after getting that, which they've already pre-approved for me, they said, no problem, send us the date and the deadline, when are you running the 30-day beta, and we're ready to go, right? But after that, if I'm looking to make the sale, I'm always dealing with the shareholders of the hospital, but that's where I'm kind of starting with smaller hospitals, something that's more similar to like the privatized system in the States, if you know much about that. That is mostly the doctors are buying for what they think is a reasonable solution for their hospitals.
So that's kind of like the healthcare professionals I've talked to and the letters of intent are from medical directors, but they double up as doctors that work at that hospital. So they're actually ones that have a say in what technology is being brought in. So it's a mix of I'm selling to the shareholders and the doctors have to agree that it's really something that's going to cut back costs and so on.
So you've got to get the Health Canada approval
Yeah.
to go through the process,
Yep.
and then you're going to sell into, I guess, at the LIN level?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, LIN level, yep.
And what do you expect that to take 18 months per sale, or what would your guess be? Or do you have any ideas?
The first sale is going to be the hardest. That's what it's going to look like. So after these 3 letters of intent, even the healthcare professionals themselves said, if I only went through 3 letters of intent, and all of them are just waiting for, quite literally, what I said the 100,000 would be going towards, me to develop that software further. Because our bands are fine. They're good to go, but the software is lacking. Right? And so that's what it would take. It would take me to really go through with the 3 letters of intent, and from there have the proof, have that press to be able to prove that this should be nationwide, and then eventually through North America, right?
Is there a cost, like do the hospitals have to pay a cost for the software, or like who pays the cost on the software?
Yeah, so in my pilot, the initial starting price will be $5,000 for the Cortex software. That is a little bit because pricing. I've actually spoken to Paul Thompson, if anybody, or if he's in the room. He's kind of given me tips on that. And in the medical space, I guess, it's very difficult to price that. And so at $5,000, that'll give me the perfect space to really see if that is the right price, right? Because these hospitals are very willing to pay even more. But I'm not looking to overcharge, I'm not looking to undercharge. And as a new player in the game, right, as with a novel technology, it's a tightrope that I'm walking on.
Thanks, Susanna.
Thanks so much.
How awesome were those pitches? Woo! A huge congratulations to all 8 of you. Well done. I'm going to excuse our judges with some late slips for being slow, and let you go and start your deliberations. And while our judges are deliberating, I'm going to share with you a video that we put together of one of our Fierce Founders Accelerator alumni. So Bridesmaid was in our accelerator last year, and she's got some stuff to share about her experiences. So I'm going to let that video play now. Enjoy.
We got engaged last March, so just over a year ago, and I scoured the internet for months. We had so many pictures sent back and forth of just what we thought would look good. Everything was either ugly or too expensive. I came across bridesmaid.ca and I was like, oh my God, the option to rent sounds perfect. We decided on the sizes and colors, mailed out to me June 14th, so I had them about 2 weeks before the ceremony. I mean, it all worked out perfectly. I'm so thankful for the process. I will forever recommend Bridesmaid to everyone. It's, you know what I mean, financially, ecologically, everything's better about it.
In North America, right now, $2.6 billion is spent every single year just on bridesmaid dresses. Although men have been renting tuxes and things for years, right now we're the only real player focused on bridesmaids. We offer all of our dresses online through a rental platform, so that saves money, saves closet space, and has a better environmental impact. And all of the dresses that we've designed and curated are size adjustable to get around the need for alterations. Making the jump from working full-time to investing the amount of time that I needed in Bridesmaid to make it a success before Bridesmaid could actually pay me a salary. My co-founder Clay and I had actually previously lived in the Waterloo region, but we'd moved. I was living downtown Toronto and she was living in Calgary. It was actually when we got into Fierce Founders, the accelerator, that both of us moved back. And during those 6 months in the program, we learned and we knew that the access to a network, being mentors, potential investors, peers, was invaluable about this region. But we also learned in hiring our first couple of job candidates that this is a great place to be when it comes to talent. To not always wait until things are absolutely perfect and to launch and then rapidly iterate. I wish that we'd had the confidence to hire earlier, So we could have been just that much further ahead instead of trying to, grind it out and just do it with 2 co-founders and a co-op for as long as we did. We definitely still miss a lot of things about Communitech, but as we were kind of painting furniture and getting things ready to move into our own space was when it just really started to feel real. I could kind of walk into the office in the morning and think like, wow, we built this.
So we have a little time while the judges deliberate. The bar is open and there's some pretty delicious looking food back there. So please feel free to use this time to enjoy yourself a little bit and network. And we'll see you back here when the judges are finished with their deliberations. So before I announce the winners, here goes my 25 minutes. Are you ready for it? I'd like to say one last thank you to all of our sponsors, to all the folks who helped make today a reality, every single one of them. Thank you so much. And to all of you for being here in support of our program and in support of our founders. All 8 of the founders today who pitched on stage are going to have access to some extra growth coach time, which they didn't know till just now, I don't think, which will... And I think I can say this about our mentors, even though I am one. They're pretty awesome. And myself included, maybe, I hope. But no, our mentors are pretty awesome, and they've been working with our founders over the last month, and we'll make sure they have some more time with all of them. So glad about that. So, are we ready to hear what the judges had to say? Okay, so I'm going to start with 3rd place, and congratulations to Susanna from Intelibed. Congrats, come on up. So Susanna is going to get a spot in our accelerator in the next round. Congratulations. Yeah. And in 2nd place, winning $25,000 to support her company, is Lauren from Polygon. Congratulations. No, stay up, Susanna. It's all right, stay up. Are we ready for our 1st place winner? Can we stand it any longer? So our 1st place winner with $75,000 in non-dilutive funding is Fable Tech. Alwar, come on up. Congratulations to all 3 of you. Well done. So proud of you. So if I could ask our sponsors who are in the room, and our winners will stay on the stage. We're going to get some photos. And to the rest of you, thank you again. Please enjoy some alcohol and some food while we get some photos of our winning companies. And thank you again for being here today.
Can I steal it from you to memorize?